Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, all subscribers, all viewers, and supporters of this channel. This video is about ISO 14001 version 2015. Continue. Okay. But what is ISO 14001 version 2015 for you who have just seen this video or 14001 is new to you? Here we go. ISO 14001 is about environmental management system. What does it manage? It manages environmental aspect. How? By fulfilling compliance obligation and addressing risk and opportunities. That's the definition. But what is environmental aspect? As far as my comprehension and experience in environmental management system for over 30 years now, the definition is wordy, but it is simple. Actually, what it meant is environmental aspect is anything, thing, material, substance, matter, object, equipment, okay, but not process. Environmental aspect is anything that interacts and can interact with the environment, and of course subsequently could cause environmental impact, which is beneficial or adverse, but our main concern is mostly those that can cause adverse environmental impact. Good. Before we go on, let me implore all my Muslim brothers and sisters, please do not watch this video if you are in a mosque for the Friday prayers or for attending some religious lessons. Thank you very much. I love you for it, and I wish blessings from the Almighty to you with Jannatun Na'im. Okay, thank you very much. Now, how do we know, or how do we find, how do we determine, in other words, environmental aspects for us to manage? What are they? How to find them? The answer is very simple. It's there before you. It's a methodology called input-output analysis. This is what we're going to do. This is what I'm going to show you immediately after this. And I have a sample of for us to have a better understanding. In my explanation, we will look into a process called filter press. I think you know filter press, right? But normally it is called sludge dewatering. All right, so let us first take a look. Where does this process, input output analysis, is situated in the chronology of the implementation and establishment of environmental management system ISO 14001? Where is it? And we're going to this input-output analysis of the sludge dewatering process, and I will show you from the results of this input-output analysis. Once we have identified all our environmental aspects, what do we do in order to facilitate our management of these aspects, meaning establishing the aspects impact register for the ISO 14001. Okay, let's take a look. First of all, this is an overall, I would say, graphical representation of the implementation of ISO 14001. If you can see here, the context of the organization and all the scope of the MS, who are interested with this and what are their needs and what are our obligations and all these, our organizations. These are all administrative matters that normally when I do this work, I get the admin, the management to do this part. But our concern, before we can really manage our or before we could have our environmental management system, we need to identify what are environmental aspects which is in our organization or involved in our organization or getting into our organization and processes and being released from our processes, etc. What are these environmental aspects? Where are they? So it's a process of identification of environmental aspects, and that process is right here, right on the top of the process flow. It is, I would say, an opening. It is actually a kickoff for the implementation of ISO 14001. So it is early. Therefore, what it means is if one needs to have an environmental management system certified ISO 14001 version 2015, the first thing they got to do, I used to call it initial environmental review. It is a process that we audit our entire organization, all departments, all activities, all processes, even products and processes and products and our services. All these activities for what? Identifying what are our environmental aspects, and most importantly, what are the probable related or subsequent environmental impact due to the presence of all these environmental aspects that we have got to manage. Therefore, environmental management system is managing these environmental aspects in view of reducing, or if not eliminating, the occurrence of its subsequent environmental impact. Clear? Okay, got it. Now, once we have the environmental aspects identified, we have got to evaluate, because we need to prioritize. We can't be managing the whole sky in one day. Okay, so we have got to prioritize which is more urgent, or which has got higher liability in terms of legal, in terms of remember, compliance obligation. There's a definition. Liability with the authorities, liability with the suppliers, etc. These are all obligations that we have got to evaluate, or as a criteria in the evaluation. Therefore, we will arrive to, after the evaluation, we will get this list of, we are able to identify from all the environmental aspects that we have identified which ones are significant. So, got it? And on top of that, we would incorporate for each aspect and for each of their respective processes what are associated risks and opportunities in environmental terms. So we've got it there. And also I've added in environmental performance evaluation as an added thing due to the fact that this standard wanted to have performance reflected. Okay, and then we develop this aspects impact register for a company. Okay, and then at this point, as a company, you as the owner of the company, or people working for the organization, now know that the position of your organization with respect to environmental management. What have you to manage, and what probable impact associated to environmental aspects that you have. Then only knowing this and having this background or idea of the environmental responsibility that you have, then we start to develop our environmental policy. The environmental policy comes second after identification of environmental aspects, and then you got to sit down, the steering committee, the EMR, the top management has got to decide what are your objectives. Okay, and for each objective, how are you going about to achieve it? To achieve it, remember, to achieve it is not just plug and play. It's not just some beautiful words of objective and end of the day you're not getting anywhere. Not anymore for this ISO 14001 version 2015. Not just an environmental management system documented, not that. Due diligence. This standard, the new one, is about practice. What have we achieved? That is why this standard is emphasizing on intended outcome. And in our objective, in our EMP, planning action, how to achieve, who, do what, when, and how, and the cost. It could be finance, it could be mandate, it could be equipment or investments, has got to reflect, be reflected in the environmental management program, has got to complement or conjure to the objectives, and all this is part of what is called the intended outcome. And not only that, when we formulate objectives and environmental management program, we've got to include this. This has got to be reflected. We have got to design an objective and design an environmental management program that would lead to, that display your commitment to have a higher environmental performance, and also to display how serious you are, your commitment to comply to all your obligations with all interested parties. And on top of that, you got to do something, especially in your environmental management program, that reflects that you are absolutely positive and driving towards achieving these objectives that you have set. So this is how serious this new standard is. Well, most companies have done this, but this time it's more into result-oriented ISO 14001. Okay, so let's go into the next slide and take a look at the input-output analysis that I've promised you. Okay, I have here before you displaying what is called a filter press, but in environmental sciences and in engineering, we call it dewatering process for the sludge. Industrial effluent treatment plants releases treated water. That's the final outcome. Okay, and also as a result of perhaps a biological process of aeration, you got sludge, or the process of flocculation and coagulation, you got sludge. So this is sludge coming out of the wastewater treatment plant, or in Malaysia we call it industrial effluent treatment system, and the sludge is an input. There you are, into this filter press. And now it's our job to identify what is its related or associated environmental impact from this aspect, the sludge. So the rule of thumb, the formula literally is to look whether it is an input or output environmental aspect. In this case, sludge here is the input. Got it? There you are. Therefore, in order to determine its associated environmental impact, is to look at its life cycle perspective, to look at its life cycle. Where does it come from? Meaning, looking at upstream. There you are. And this sludge is really coming from materials used in the processes, raw mats, which has been involved in all sorts of processes, reactions, transformation into products and in waste, and becomes sludge as it enters wastewater treatment plant. So it's a long story, but I cut it short. So it is from raw mats, and raw mats are mostly chemical in this case. They are mineral chemicals, and they are extracted from natural geological resources, rocks. Okay, and therefore, the more demand for those materials or raw mats, the more extraction of materials from natural resources will occur, and eventually the reservoir for the inventory of natural resources, I'm not sure who keep it, is getting less and less. Thereby, in environmental management term, the impact is resource depletion. Now, this is classic for environmental management system. Materials would have led into a resource depletion eventually. But if you decided to go at the life cycle stages, not until resources, you can stop at perhaps environmental impact of what? Higher purchase of materials or even material spillage. You can do that, nothing wrong. That is just one or two steps from the upstream of its life cycle. No problem, as long as you know what the environmental impact is, and as long as you can control if you could. Otherwise you could influence. For me, influencing is we can influence the use of the raw mat. How? By having productivity, that's ISO 9000, by having enhanced optimization of the use of raw mats. Then we can reduce the demand for the raw mat and reduce or retard so-called resource depletion. Or we have waste minimization technique in place. Then we have less effluent and probably less sludge. Got it? So that's what environmental management is about. And what's the output from this process is the sludge cake. This is a result of perhaps in this case coagulation and flocculation of the metal ions or other impurities, could be salts impurities, which is flocculated with the use of perhaps coagulant aid or flocculant, which then settle down sediments and it becomes sludge, and it is watery, so it is float, it is channeled to this particular filter press for it to press. It's a physical process, pressing the sludge, removing the water, and the water goes back into the industrial effluent treatment system, and you got there a sludge cake if everything is in order. But in practice you can have some slimy sludge cake over there, and even sometimes the cake won't fall down from the filter membrane and you got to do raking. Those are due to excess use of coagulant and flocculant. That's another story. You can consult your wastewater treatment plant consultant and your trainer and your 14001 EMS consultant, all right? Get their expert opinion. That sludge cake now is an environmental aspect. Why? The same thing, it interacts with the environment. How? Look, this is an output environmental aspect, sludge cake, right? How does it interact? Downstream, because it is an output. What, in other words, what happened to it next? Got it? The sludge cake is in Malaysia called scheduled waste. Okay? And it will be collected by the scheduled waste licensed contractor, and it will be sent to a facility called prescribed premise, which is licensed by the authority either to incinerate the sludge cake, causing air pollution, and also you got ash which will be sent to the secure landfill, or directly without going through incineration, it will be dumped in a secure landfill, thereby interacting with the environment and causing what is called soil contamination or ground pollution, or even you can have groundwater pollution, depending on how you find it, how you investigate. So when it is an output environmental aspect, we got to look at the downstream of its interaction with the environment from its life cycle perspective. Downstream interaction with the environment to determine its respective environmental impact. So the same thing goes for all the other environmental aspects. I'm just giving you just a number, a handful, number of environmental aspects. In reality, you've got an entire list left and right, input and output. So you got to be resilient and meticulous in your work, okay? And this is a filter membrane which is made from a petrochemical product, of course, demand for oil and gas, a petrochemical and oil and gas, so causing. And the clogged filter membrane goes to, as a schedule is, it becomes dumped in secure landfill. And hydraulic oil is from oil, as you know, causing the more demand for hydraulic oil is more demand for fossil fuel, and resource depletion will be the interaction with the environment. And spent hydraulic oil somehow in this country, which is a good news at least, is being recycled. So I would say it's more into resource conservation. This is my number one favorite, resource conservation. Nonetheless, the residue from the recovery process has got to be sent to a secure landfill if you ask the authority or ask the law. But if you ask me, this soil contamination won't happen because I will convert it into renewed products. Unfortunately, some parts of the law is not that environmental. Unfortunate, isn't it? But never mind. I'll leave that to the policy makers. We just study sciences and we know what it's all about, but doesn't matter for the time being. And electrical energy from fossil fuel, it's talk about diesel or coal stones. And of course, environmental impact over prolonged use of this equipment is some amount of heat is released, and it can be felt over there, and also some noise perhaps over some time, and it may cause some aesthetic degradation. This is the methodology in identifying environmental aspects. Why? Because this standard wants us to manage these environmental aspects by having a procedure, environmental procedure for this process and all other processes in our organization. Got it? So let's take a look. Let's take a look at our dashboard. This is my dashboard. Now, it is very important for us to be able to see our environmental aspects from their respective activity and processes. In this case, it's this one. And this is our environmental aspect. We got to list it down. It has got to be listed down and made visible. Visible in a manner that we are able to look at it and see what are more urgent environmental aspects and what have more severe in terms of magnitude of impact associated to each aspect, and severity and legal. These are all evaluation criteria. So this is the evaluation criteria and rating scheme. I don't show it here. It is lengthy. It's in another appendix. Hopefully, if there is demand from you, please write in the comments below. I'll try to do it for you. Okay? And of course, please consult your respective consultant and trainer. Your existing consultant and trainer, consult them for their experience. Okay? And they would be, I believe, would give you a very good guidance and input towards this. And for each aspect, we have got to determine, is there any environmental risk and environmental opportunity? It could be in business terms, but is giving an impetus to environment. It's good, environment betterment especially. So in this case, it's legal liability, and what I would do is we have an opportunity here, on-site conversion into what? Bricks, paver is being done. Okay, and we have clogged membrane. Okay, and we have on-site regeneration. Okay, and all these are actually risk and opportunity for us. And electrical energy, there you are. I would love to have this turbine power, solar, and all this. This would be what I would look for in our environmental management system. This is called improvement. This is called performance. When you have less environmental impact to the environment, that is a performance from our company. So that is the ultimate aim for ISO 14001 version 2015. I hope you are able to catch the ball, you are able to follow, and please get advice from your respective consultant and trainers to help you out in depth from this. This is just principle and philosophy for you. Thank you very much, YouTube. I'm honored to be able to use this platform. I'm also honored to speak before you, all subscribers, viewers of my channel. Please forgive me for any shortcomings because I got to make sure the video is not too lengthy. Otherwise, I'll put you all to sleep. And as a Malay Muslim, I would wish you this. Semoga dikurniakan kesenangan, keselamatan, kesejahteraan, dan kebahagiaan kehidupan di dunia dan di akhirat. Until we meet in the next video, inshallah, I wish everybody, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever faith have you, whatever colors have your skin and hair, or even nails, okay? I wish you this. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.